So welcome everybody. Today I'm really excited to have a conversation with a Neuro-Semantics trainer, a meta coach, and also a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and someone that I respect very much and I've gotten to know over the greater part of the past decade. And I'm really excited to ask him some questions and to learn from him a little bit about what he can share with you about the fields of neurosemantics and maybe some really valuable tips or something that you can take with you into your life. And so I'm really happy to be here with Marzuki Mohamed. Welcome, Marzuki.
Thank you for having me here, Jason. When you mentioned that you've known me for the last decade, it makes me go, that long?
I feel like it has been. I know, and I look forward to another decade ahead of us continuing to learn and grow. And I really admire the time that we spent together. I learned so much from you, and so. My thought was, well, why not share all of the good stuff that you have, all the value and the spirit that you have to share that I've gotten from you with the wider audience. So,
yes, yeah, I would love to do that. And what I would like to say is that I value the friendship that we have. And as you mentioned, for me as well, our meeting and our friendship gave me a lot of things that I think about, I remember about, and that has taught me so many things with respect to my own values. So the feeling is mutual, I would say.
Well, it really means a lot to me, and it's really tribute to the richness of the diversity of the community that we have here in the field of neurosemantics, and how much we can collaborate and learn and grow when we collaborate with each other. So with that being said, I guess I'm wondering, real brief, I'm just curious, like when did you discover NLP and when did you come across this field and how did that all go about? I'm just curious.
When that comes to slightly over 15 years ago, I began to hear about NLP, and I would say that, I said about 15 years ago, it's more like 20 years ago. Because I was at a conference in Wellington, in New Zealand, and there was this powerful speaker, Philippa Bond. She was speaking from stage, and her presence was so powerful that I said, wow, how did she get that? And during her presentation, she mentioned NLP. That was my first time hearing about NLP, and I started doing research from there. It's just that it was, I began reading about NLP. It was only about 5 years after that I managed to, I would say, attend a training program and begin learning about that. So initially my interest in NLP was because at that time I've just started into training. Initially my interest in NLP was to become a more powerful presenter, more powerful trainer. And as I began reading about it, I realized that, it's so much more than that. To the extent that when I attended my first practitioner program, my intention has changed. My first intention of learning NLP was more about becoming a better trainer. However, when I attended my practitioner program, understanding that NLP is the structure of human experience, I attended my practitioner program with the express intention of how to improve the relationship that I had with my son. At that moment, he was about 15, and I was struggling with my relationship with him. So that shift from wanting to learn NLP to become a better trainer to attending my practitioner program with the intention of how to improve my relationship with my son and my children. So that shift came about when I understood that NLP is not about speaking, it's not just about influencing. It goes deep down to about relationships that we have in our lives.
That's funny. I think I can relate with that with my story. You know, when I first found NLP, I was interested more in learning the skills for coaching and to become a better coach. And it wasn't until later on that I really realized the real power of what we had. And it wasn't so much about the communication skills, but I realized that there's just so much more to this, and started applying it to myself and in my relationships as well. And I see that you've got quite a few books on the bookshelf behind you. So you've done quite a bit of reading over the past 15 years, I could imagine, huh?
Yes, that's the only way that we can learn, through reading, through attending trainings. And yeah, of course, one of the training that I really value attending was ACMC in Grand Junction in Colorado. That's where I met you.
Yeah. That was that's always a powerful experience to do the ACMC, to become the certified meta coach and get the benchmarking. I wanted to ask you a little bit of a follow-up. So you were saying that NLP, for you realized that it's really about the relationships. Could you expand a little bit about your latest thinking on that, or what your realization was? Maybe other people can benefit.
Yes. My first, I would say, introduction to NLP, what I got was, this is about being a better presenter, being a better trainer. As I begin to look into what NLP was about, I looked at the models that we learned in NLP, and I realized that it was more than that. And I would say in the last 5 years, I begin to be more focused on, you know, what Michael mentioned about, if you want to get NLP people to shut up, you ask them, what's NLP? And they just go, because
I know that experience quite well myself. I've been training NLP for 10 years. I know that experience very well.
Yeah, because it encompasses a lot of areas in our life. In fact, all the areas of our lives, because in our life, we are managing ourselves and relating to others. And what basically NLP does, it brings the structure of that communicating with ourselves and communicating with others. And that was when, about a few years ago, Michael drummed the point that NLP is a communication model. And I just begin thinking about that. And one of the things that we covered in the NLP, the Meta NLP program that we've been teaching, one of the, I would say, sentences that has been there in the training manual: communication is relationship. It's been there. But it was probably in the last few years that it really jumped out at me. I said, hold on. NLP is a communication model, and communication is relationship. So, in fact, NLP gives us the structure of how to relate with ourselves and with others. And that, at that point, it blew my mind, because I was already focused on relationships, meaning to say, what I would like to see in this world, in the larger context, is that we human beings are able to relate better with one another, to be kind and loving to one another. And at the personal level, I want to be able to relate with others in ways that are kind and loving. And I realized that I have that structure all along. I learned that more than 15 years ago, and that structure is what excites me right now, that when I meet people, I want to bring this knowledge to people, so that when I gave you the example, when I attended my NLP practitioner program with the express intention of improving the relationship that I had with my son, so that's the similar intention that I have for others when they learn NLP, that you can have wonderful relationships with the people in your life once you know the structure. It makes it easy.
And
Yeah,
so,
so that's what's driving me.
so, and that's really interesting. So you say once you know the structure. So how would someone know if they know the structure, or what is structure? What are you referring to when you use the word structure?
Uh, Thank you for asking that. The analogy that I use is a fruit tree. Uh, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, there was an orchard behind my house. Whenever my friend comes to his orchard, he'll just call me, and I'll just climb over the fence. I don't bother going through the gate. I'll just climb over the fence, and we'll be up climbing that tree. And throughout my childhood days, I don't recall eating fruits when I'm on the ground or in the house. I eat fruits up in the tree. Now, and the analogy that I have about life, about the things that we want in life, is the analogy of the fruit tree. For most people, when we approach a fruit tree, we look at all the various fruits. This fruit is sweet, that is less sweet, and people just say, "Oh, how do I get to have such? How do I get to those fruits?" So those are the shortcuts that people look for. Those are the results. The fruits are the results. Now, as a boy climbing trees, I know that in order for me to get to the fruits, I need to go to the tree trunk, climb up the trunk, go to the branches, and from the branches, I can pick which fruit is fully ripe and take that. The ones that are not ripe, I leave it there for tomorrow or the next day. I'll know when it gets ripe. So every time I eat fruit, I'll only eat the ripe ones. So that's what I'm referring to the structure. NLP gives us the structure in terms of the analogy, the metaphor is we learn what's the trunk of the tree. So what is the primary, the fundamental of relationship and communication? What enhances it? That's the roots, the nutrients that the tree takes. And how do you arrive at the outcome? Those are the branches. Once you know what's necessary for the roots, the trunk, and the branches, getting to the fruits itself is easy peasy. So that's my approach to it. And that is what I've been wanting to bring to people. Once you know that structure, getting to the results become easy, because we fall into the trap nowadays. What's the latest tip? What's the secret? There is no secret to say, because human beings are different. I can use the strategy that is successful between you and me. I can use that strategy with another person, because that person is totally different. So no tips. Once you understand the structure, you find your own strategy, what is best for that person that you're dealing with, and you're good to go. So that's basically what's driving me.
I love that metaphor because, first of all, I love natural metaphors. I used to climb trees a lot as a child as well. I used to climb up trees. It was the easy part. It was getting down that I had the hard part. I got to get down. But I like the natural metaphors. It's really nice. And I really, like the point there about that there isn't really, a lot of people are looking for a shortcut, but the key is really to understand the real structure of how things work. And then you'll have a better understanding about how to adapt to each unique individual, each unique relationship, each unique situation in front of you when you have that kind of foundational understanding.
Yeah.
And so I guess you had something to share there, or?
Because I use the word shortcut, and you when you said that again, what struck me is that people look for shortcuts, and they begin to want to get the results in their life through the shortcuts. Actually, if they don't understand the structure, it's going to take them longer. However, when they understand the structure, they work from first principles, that is actually the shortcut. It gets there faster and more effective.
That's an amazing point. Right. Yeah. That's a funny thing. So how many times do people, they chase the silver bullet, the shortcut, and then it doesn't work and get them the results they're looking for. So then they go for the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And if they would have just gone the route, the natural kind of route that it takes to get to somewhere, that actually you would get there quicker if you just went the direct route. And so I guess, what would be something that you could share with people, that maybe a tip or something that would help people to, maybe something from your learnings or your experience that they could apply, that would help them with their communication or the relationship with themselves or with others? What would be one tip that you could share?
I think over the years, what I have learned to appreciate is that by understanding the structure, as we mentioned, going back to the analogy of the tree, there are many different fruits. So from that, I would say one thing that we need to realize about our interaction, our relationship with human beings, is that every person is individual and they are different. We have many similar values that we are attracted to, and those values can bring us closer to one another or further apart, depending on whether we match or mismatch the values. However, to be able to accept the fact that every human beings are different individuals, and when we approach human beings, we want to approach from that individual, rather than approaching from what I consider as the cult of personality, meaning to say, we tend to, there is this shortcut that people want to learn about relationships of personality types or character types, and they learn about all of this category of personality or category of character or brain types, and they attempt to approach individuals from those statistical analysis of human beings. And I keep highlighting that people are not statistics. You can learn personality types for the sake of marketing, let's say, your product. However, when it comes to human being, have the patience, be ready, have the compassion to understand the person as is, as an individual, rather than a generalization. And I'm beginning to have this sense of the spectrum, where how generalizations can be useful, how generalization can be harmful to relationships. So this is where I would say, if there is one thing that I would like to highlight over here, is that when we want to relate to other human beings, know that that is a unique human being. Take the trouble, take the time to understand that human being. Only then we'll be able to create resourceful or loving relationships with that person. So that's probably something that I would just like to mention as one thing that would be most powerful for me.
That's an amazing tip. And that's a really interesting realization about, well, categories and typings might be good if you're doing marketing to a group of people, but when you're dealing with an individual, to treat them as a unique a valuably unique individual, and get to know them on their own terms. And all of the skills and tools from NLP and from Neuro-Semantics and all the coaching skills really support you in getting to understand people, to listen to them more deeply, and to ask them powerful questions to get to know them on their own terms.
Yeah, and that has worked for me, especially when I'm communicating and relating with my little grandchildren. Nowadays, my focus is my grandchildren, and to be able to learn about each and every one, just using the tools of NLP and coaching, and that helps me to relate to them at a deeper level, because I am not really relating to them as the general term of grandchildren. I'm relating to them individually. This person and this person and this person, and each and every one of them are just wonderful in their own right, and they behave differently in that way, and that helps me make me appreciate this knowledge, this body of knowledge that we call NLP, because it helps me to connect and relate with my grandchildren better.
And these are the children of your son, where we started in the story. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we came full circle.
With my son, at the time when I was attending my practitioner program, I had a very bad relationship, in the sense that every time I look at his face, I got angry. And at least at that time, I was, you can say, clever enough to realize that it's not his problem, it's my problem. Because how could you look at somebody's face and you get angry? There couldn't be anything wrong with that person. It's got to be me. So when I attended my NLP practitioner program, I wanted to work on me so that I can have better relationship with him. And absolutely right decision for me, because once I got all of the things right, because I was putting expectations that are not suitable for him, that got me angry. So the moment I begin to learn about him as a person, then that expectation vanished, and it made me relate with him in a much better way. And especially now that my sons and daughters, they are all adults, understanding the structure of relationships allow me to make those adjustments. You know, when they are children, this is how you relate with them. When they are teenagers, and now they are adults. So I have that core knowledge, and because of that, I'm able to make those, I would say, adjustments as they go through their life. So that's what I'm grateful about.
And so I guess in closing, I'm wondering, so let's say, you went through your first NLP course, let's say 15 years ago or so, I believe you said. And what would you say to someone now? Like, if you could talk back to yourself back then and give yourself a piece of advice to maybe facilitate someone who's in that position now, they're starting to learn NLP, what kind of advice could you give them as they hop onto their mastery pathway or their own journey of self-discovery and self-expression?
I think what worked for me was when I attended my NLP practitioner program, I was working on my own problem. Instead of approaching it from the academic point of view, because NLP is able to open the doors to your whole spectrum of your life. So if you were to approach NLP from the academic point of view, meaning to say, oh, it can do this, it can do that, it can do this, it can do that, then the learning is not, I would say, not fully experiential. You are just getting some tips up here and not being able to bring it out. So be aware that when you learn NLP, it is going to open a very wide door into your life. And to not approach NLP from the point of view of tricks and techniques or strategies, but to approach it from how would it make my life better? And that is something that I would like to ask you to think about. Think about, how will NLP make my life better for now? And then the rest of it, you can learn it for later, because you can continue to learn it. And especially for people who come into my training program, I say to them, word of caution, I say to them at the very beginning of the program, that this program is 9 days or how many days that we are together. However, I say to them, however, you have enough material for the next 5 years of your life. So just focus on learning what is useful for you now and just use them. And that will be my recommendation. Just go in and you can even focus your learning to specific problems that you want to solve now, and use the learning program to solve those problems for you at the point in time that you attend the training. The rest of it, you can go back to the material and use all of those material for your life.
Powerful, powerful advice. I wish I had you when I was first learning to give me that one. But I got it now, and I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm hopeful that a lot of other people will take that away as well. So apply it to yourself with real stuff. Make it experiential, and work with what's important for you now. If the material is rich, you can come back to it over and over again. You'll have years or decades worth of material in there. And I really appreciate you coming on here today and sharing. If people want to learn more about you or what you're doing, how can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. You can go to LinkedIn. My handle is M Marzuki Mohamed, or you can go to
I'll share the links around
the
here
website
as well.
Yeah, we'll do
share
that.
the links around the video. So thank you so much, Marzuki. It's been a pleasure as always. I hope to have you back on at some point in the future, and I look forward to the next times we cross paths somewhere in the world.
Yes, I look forward to that, and I want to say here, I value our friendship here, and I hope that we can continue helping one another to become our better self. So thank you very much, Jason. Really appreciate you. Love you, Jason.
Likewise. Thank you.